The patriarchy primes fangirls to be dismissive, but this is not unique to fangirls alone. It's just dismissive of men's actions, right? Holding men accountable, realizing what that looks like and when to disengage. And as someone who was a crazy, crazy fangirl in my day, believe me, I know a thing or two about this. There was an old Brittany Broski interview, I think it was on Jake Shane's podcast, where she had said that being a fangirl is just kind of a high that no amount of drugs or alcohol could touch. Like, and I really did believe this to be true because at the height of my fangirl years, like, truly, there's nothing like a high of new music, new interview, new funny compilation of One Direction videos that I was just watching the entirety of summer 2012. Just everything about it, the concerts are, I mean, the ultimate high, I would say. And it's just so interesting because I'm 30 now, okay? And looking back at my different fangirl ways over the years, we can all admit that we've lived through cringy days, and maybe we're still cringe, but who cares? Cringe is just a cage at the end of the day. But I mean, I think back to the time now, back in my day, there was a time when people were tweeting, my ovaries just exploded. And there's a very specific picture of Kendall Schmidt that I remember tweeting that about. And he was in a beanie. And that's all I can say. And I'm not saying any more about that. But I think it's interesting because uh, they become our obsessions. They do, right? And this can go with any celebrity, but I'm specifically talking about men in the way that as I've gotten older, have realized, and I would say, I think it's both getting older and things kind of, I want to say, is maturing the right word? I'm not sure. Uh, or just like kind of coming to on some things and being like, wait a second, I don't know if I like that, but I guess I'll still be a fan of them anyways because I'm attached to them. A lot of something in that nature is what I'm trying to say. I don't know if that makes sense. But there's just this obsession with the celebrity men that we have adored and loved, and we have had a grand old time in our day with, right? But as time goes by, right, and we get older and we get smarter and we learn things and we deconstruct a little bit of patriarchy here and there are some things that I've realized that I've looked past. Hey, we're all guilty of it, okay? We all have deconstructing to do at the end of the day, and that's just the truth. When I look back at the things that I didn't like, or I hear something and I maybe dismiss it, I just go like, well, that's like the how the patriarchy plays out in real life, right? We as women, since the beginning of time, right, have been put in this place where we have to, dismiss these, right? We have this obsession, right? We have this love. I don't know if love and obsession are the same thing, but we are just obsessed, right? And we think we love these people to an extent, or they have an impact of sorts on our life that we forever want to be connected to, right? And obviously, we'll never get to meet those people. Essentially, we'll never really know those people, I guess, is what I try to mean. Sometimes people meet them, but not in the way that it's like you are going to meet who's somebody that people love right now. I don't know. I literally can't think of men. Pedro Pascal. He's not my cup of tea. He's not my cup of tea. Who's my cup of tea? The way I literally cannot think of anybody, but like if we take and I want to be very clear, I was never obsessed with this man at this time, but I think this is like one of those things that as you get older, your tastes change and then you just have a different appreciation for things. Like Spencer from iCarly, I can't even get into that right now, but like I'm vibing with him. Um Hey, we can't get into that right now. Trust me, I have a think piece on it. Trust me, I have a think piece on it, but we're not going to get into that today. Me struggling to think of celebrity men. Okay, Harry Styles. I don't even know where I was going now. Think of a celebrity man, a celebrity man, a celebrity man that you were obsessed with that maybe you're not anymore. And I want you to think like what contributed to you not being obsessed with it anymore, right? Like obviously as we get older, we have less free time. And I don't want to say that changes necessarily the way we obsess over them. But I also say as someone who was clocked the fuck in voting for the KCAs for Big Time Rush against One Direction, like, get a job. Get a job, but I can't go back and tell my 18-year-old self that. Yes, it's an embarrassing thing that I'm here to admit, okay? Because this is the truth, okay? And we're open and honest about things at the end of the day, okay, y'all? I can't even get into that. Once again, that's a whole other thing piece that we could get into, but I don't want it, to be honest. But I think about the ways that we have clowned for men as fangirls throughout our years, right? And obviously, the younger we are, the more I feel emotionally attached we feel to these people. And although that changes within time and we appreciate that era of our life, like we were all obsessed with One Direction, as I said, was just watching the compilation videos, watching the Louis funniest moments videos, right? Over and over and over again. Okay. The clips that live rent free in our brain. And it doesn't matter if I'm 95 years old in a nursing home. Okay. I'm going to remember all of these inside jokes from the One Direction fandom. And that's just how it is. That's how our brains work. Okay. We love and adore these people. We have periods of times where we're incredibly obsessed with them. But at the end of the day, we need to take a step back and be like, we're all people at the end of the day, right? Like, we put these men, or celebrities in general, but we put these men on a pedestal in a way that is so unique. If you are someone who was like fangirl cuckoo bananas, as Manny Santos would say, and have also experienced romantic relationship that has foiled in such a way that has made you rethink your life, I would really love to hear some insights from you because I think, like, I would love to know the differences and if you have been able to differentiate those things in your life because I'm just so curious as to the way that, as fangirls, and because we're talking about this in the terms of the patriarchy, how does that also affect our ability to be in relationship and things that we need to deconstruct before moving into that? I think that's so fascinating to me. But the patriarchy at the end of the day is incredibly harmful to women, as it is to everyone, but obviously we know men still benefit from this. And specifically, which is the whole point of the fucking video I'm trying to say, celebrity men, right? They are getting our money and our attention, right? They're still benefiting from this, and they don't have to do much. They don't have to do much, okay? Some of these men breathe. They go, oh my God! I was there too once upon a time, okay? I'm not anymore. The way that I uh, interact with these things is so different, and it's so interesting because it feels weird. Like I said earlier, how it used to feel like a high. I don't experience that anymore at concerts because that's like kind of fun, but even not necessarily to the same degree that I did when I was younger. And it's so fascinating. I think it's a good thing, but it's just different. And any sort of deprogramming, I think, is going to feel that way because it's never going to be exactly the same. But I was thinking about this particularly because I rewatched Starstruck from Disney Channel, okay? Who remembers that movie? And I am going to make a different video on that because I have a lot to say on that. But it really got me thinking about we don't know these people, right? If I have said anything over the past few years is I don't know these men. I know what I know, right? It's we can perceive only what we know, right? And we can be like, they seem like a nice guy. Maybe they have spoken out about some things and have been open about some things that you're like, I really like that they spoke about that, right? And that kind of, you know, grows our love for them or fondness of them at the very least. And I also think it's hard to say that we can do anything about this. I don't want to say never. Never say never. If Justin Bieber taught me anything, never say never. I don't want to say we can never do anything about it, but I just think like how the young, but the before the prefrontal cortex develops, that's just like you have to learn life on your own, hon. You have to learn life on your own, hon. I don't know that we can necessarily really do anything about our I think it's a rite of passage, quite honestly, being obsessed with the man and then being like, wait a second, they're not all they're cracked up to be. What's going on here? I think of this in the way um the naivety of young people in the way that when I was younger, we were watching Pretty Little Liars, okay? And I knew for a fact that the Ezra Arya relationship was not okay. Was not okay. But was I going, but they're so cute. Come on. Why won't her mom let them be together? It's like, that man is a predator. That man is a fucking predator. Lock that bitch up. I've always said that. Ezra Fitz? Your days are numbered. I'm coming after you immediately. Signed A. I'm A. I'm A now. And then you rewatch when you're older and you're like, this man is a predator. I actually could not. There's many reasons I can't rewatch Pretty Little Liars, but one of them is because every man on that show is so horrendous. It literally, an anger is relinquished, whatever the fuck it is. Within me, that is like, I need to fight these men through the TV screen. And I can't do that, so I think it's best I not rewatch because the men were horrible. The men were horrible. And that's something that can only click with you when you're older because there is, I think, whilst we say it doesn't matter how pretty you are, right? If you have a nasty attitude, you are ugly, right? But there is this kind of blindness that you have when you're younger to these men if they are attractive. Let's be honest. Let's be fucking honest. You've done it. You've done it. Okay? We all have. We all have. Okay? We're all people at the end of the day. But I personally think back to like Justin Bieber. And I did have crushes on Justin Bieber from time to time, but that wasn't like my main thing. I just loved Justin Bieber. I don't know. I can't explain it what it was, to be quite honest. I can't find the words for it. But even then, I think about Justin and I think about when we saw him start to go astray, if you want to say, okay? Whether it be the scissor, whether it be peeing in a bucket, okay? Whether it be getting a DUI, I don't recall. Where were you? Where were you for that? I remember thinking, like, I don't agree with what he does, but no, I love him and I hope he's okay. I'm not saying that you can't say that, but I look back to now. Right? With the Haley Bieber shit where he is literally just being like, yeah, and I said in a fight that you were never going to be on the cover of Vogue, and that's because I was da 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 da. And it's like, these men are not it, guys. I'm sorry. We all have a nostalgia for the beefs, but like, let's be fucking honest. We've seen it. We've seen it, right? And we maybe dismissed it and hope that wasn't what we were seeing because we also acknowledge that, like, some of these people are child stars who have had just rough lives, and that's not an excuse to act the way they act. It's just that is our empathy and understanding kind of getting in the way, uh, and our nostalgia getting in the way of us being like, hey, maybe some of these things that we're hearing about these people aren't right. Maybe they're not okay. You know what I mean? What teeters the line between those things? I don't know. And we also think too, when somebody criticizes anyone, okay? And I am just thinking like Taylor Swift because Taylor Swift, the biggest star in the whole fucking world, right? People have their opinions on every little thing, and if you disagree with them, it's like literally a World War III. Okay? And here's the thing, you can't have a World War III if there's only one side fighting. Okay? And I learned that from the Jonas Brothers at a young age. Where were you? Stream World War III by the Jonas Brothers. But I think about the way in which people jump on others, right? If we say, even just a polite call out, right? Because I think that's the overall thing. There are people who, this man could never do anything wrong, right? And there's also people who are like, hey, I really love this person, but this really isn't right. I hope they make it right because this is wrong. Here's why X, Y, and Z. And those people are attacked in such a way that is like, honestly, like, where is the decorum? We know it doesn't exist, especially when like you're a little fangirl obsessed and think men can do no wrong, and you just are attacking the person who is pointing out the issue, right? Instead of like reflecting and being like, okay, that's not an issue for me. So I'm gonna shut my mouth, right? Instead of just saying like, hey, if that person feels that way, they can, and then I'm gonna let them rock with that. You know what I mean? Like, this is the vibes that we were getting. And probably still are to a degree that might be scary now, especially because we have TikTok, which is social media is a whole other factor in all of this. But I think about like the jump to defend, the jump to attack people who are calling out an issue, right? That things should be better, that this is not right, and that we hold these people to a certain standard. Because a lot of times we like make up these standards in our head. Like, there is a standard I think we should have for people generally, right? But I also think like the way that we project how we think they are. We don't actually ever really know these people. Like I said, we have an idea of who their persona is, right? And so when that is shattered, right, everybody starts to panic, right? And you either go, okay, I can't rock with this anymore, or you go, I can't believe you would say that. And it's like, we have to take a second, stop, drop, and roll, everybody. Stop, drop, and roll. Okay? Because it's burning up, and you got to stop, drop, and roll immediately. Immediately. Let's stop. What am I feeling? I don't like that they said that about him. Okay, let's dig a little deeper. I always thought that he was a nice sweetie pie, or he was always nice to me in our meet and greets. I can't imagine he would ever do this horrible thing. And it's like, I don't know this person. Had some tech issues, but I'm back, even though after I just rented for 8 more minutes and I don't remember what I said. Amazing things are happening here. Nevertheless, we do not know these people, right? We think we know these people, and so when somebody does something that we may see is out of character for them, we just like don't want to address it. Because the big thing about this is, what do we do with that new information? As I said, when people call out things that happen on Twitter, people are rushing to say shit to them. And I just go, but what if we said nothing? But what if we let that sit for a second, right? Because a lot of these things kind of click with us as we get older and we look back at the ways in which we dismissed behavior because we didn't want to deal with it, or we just thought, no, it can't mean that, can it? And I say this in the way, particularly with fangirls, which I have been guilty of doing 100%. I think if you have been a fan of any man from a young age, you will look at that behavior and go, yeah, I saw that and I either didn't think anything of it, I didn't clock it, or I just dismissed it entirely or thought, no, he couldn't have meant it like that. Oh no, but that's not it. Oh, that's not it. And you go, that's the patriarchy at work, everybody. That's the patriarchy at work. And I say this within the realm of clocking, when I was 14 years old, my favorite band was oh, and I'll let you decipher who that is about. But if you know, you know. And I loved them for many years. And one of the members was doing YouTube vlogs at the time. They were going on a lot of cruises. You probably know who I'm talking about if you're a fan, or if you were a fan at a time. And there was at a time there was language between him and his wife that I was like, huh, okay, I don't really know what to do with this, but okay, that was a little odd. Right? It's like one of those things that like it starts your questioning, but you don't really know, you can't really tell what's going on until, his wife came out fully in support of being a pro-lifer, which we all know I are not pro-lifers at the end of the day. They are anti-abortion. And because as we know from anti-abortion people, they don't actually advocate for other causes to help children, right? It's just we need to get these children born and we do nothing to help them outside of there. Um, and also just like anti-women to themselves at the end of the day, which is really something like that. Really, once I learned a lot of information about this person, was like, as a woman, you're saying that? Like, that's so deeply disturbing. Like, we kind of obviously go, well, fuck them, right? Because why would you say that? That's so fucking horrible. But also, it like makes me feel sad for them because it's like, you are also a woman on this planet. Why are you rooting for other women to be hurt? You could be in that place at some point. Not that you want to be, but no one ever thinks they will be, right? And we can't even get to all the intersections of the anti-abortion movement that we have been seeing for a long time now. But I say this in the way, I saw this woman make a lot of comments about things, and it's just like anti-science, quite honestly, anti-intellectualism, quite honestly, anti-trans. Need we go on? Need we go on? It's all angering at the end of the day. But it makes me sad to see people do this so publicly. Not that we want people to do it privately, but not that we want people to do it publicly because we like to know where people stand. But also, we don't want further harm to come to the communities. But at the end of the day, the harm is happening no matter whether we like it or not. And it shouldn't be happening. Period. At all. These people have a lot to deconstruct in their life. But I say this in the realm of like dismissing men's behaviors, right? And we go, now, if we really sit when you're old, you're old, guys, it's a beautiful thing to age. So I say when you're old lightly. But when you really sit and you go, well, what would I like out of a romantic partner? What would be acceptable, unacceptable behavior from them, right? I would never get into a relationship with someone who, at the end of the day, did not share my same values, right? It is a beautiful thing to have differences. Our differences make us stronger. We learned that from High School Musical, by the way. We learned that from High School Musical. I've just rewatched High School Musical, so, I, there's just lots to say on that. Nevertheless, I go, if you, especially with a man, to be with a man who doesn't believe in your reproductive rights, right? And does it so casually is actually spooky. It's spookier than I think people realize because we are so desensitized as a society. And I want us to be resensitized, right? As a society, as fangirls, deconstructing patriarchy, we need to be resensitized because we need to be realizing what these casual words are actually saying. Because I look back and I go, oh, maybe he doesn't believe that. I go, that's his wife, by the way. Like, isn't it so silly? The lies our brain tells us. Like, I'm sure people would say, oh, are you thinking too much into it? Well, I go, I actually think if I am, spending my time obsessing over these men, uh, obsess over men way less now because that's just what happens. Like, it's very passive for me now in comparison to how it used to be. Trust me, I was cuckoo bananas, as Manny Santos used to say. Okay, about these celebrity men. That's just the truth. That's just the truth. But I look back and I go, if his wife has all these horrendous beliefs, why would he not? And also, why would you want to be in a relationship with someone who believed starkly different than you, right? On fundamental values that affect your life as a human being. That's so silly and naive of us to be like, oh, well, maybe he doesn't mean that way. Oh, he's so nice. He's a sweetie pie. And it's like, okay, a sweetie pie who wouldn't stand for your reproductive rights? Is everyone okay? Is everyone okay? We've all been here, but we need to look at the fucking reality of it all. Why are we spending time and money on men who don't even take a stand for our rights? That's so silly. And I say this because as fangirls, like I said, we face this with so many different celebrities just in general, but specifically with male celebrities because, we see someone like Olivia Rodrigo who teamed up with, abortion organizations, right? And for a period of time, they were giving out condoms, they were giving out Plan B, if I'm not mistaken. And see, right there, we have some advocacy there, right? Because she is a young woman, and we know, especially with the rise of everything in the States, and also abortion has been banned in many places, right? And women are dying. Women are dying as we speak. And it will continue to happen. It's a very sad thing that we can't get into right now because that's a whole other conversation. But, when I think about the serious impact that these things have, and that we do not, at the very least, have celebrity men who profit off young girls and women also taking a stance against the horrors from this administration, from administrations past, doesn't matter. Where are you? You should be standing with the women. It almost should be a requirement. It feels wrong that you should be getting money if you're not doing that. And that's the way of the world, everybody. But that doesn't mean it's right, right? Just because it's been happening, that's just because that's been the way it has been, doesn't mean it's right. I need us to lock in and think about it. And I say this in the way that when this band came back, everyone knows who I'm fucking talking about. BTR. Where were you? Where were you? It was a fun time. But I'm promised I'm not going to cry on the internet, so I'm not going to talk about it anymore. But I say to really let go of something that you loved because it ain't right. It ain't right. Guys, I'm whispering because it ain't right, and I don't want to fucking cry about it because it is still sad to me, to be honest. Is this Australian or is this UK? It's feeling a bit, what's his name? The crocodile guy who got stung by the Stingray. R.I.P. Steve Irwin. No? Is that right? That's not his name. Everybody, take a second. Take a second whilst I confirm. Is that the guy from Family Matters? Steve Irwin? Oh no, it is Steve Irwin. Who's the guy from Family Matters? Urkel. Never mind. Okay, thank you, everybody. Anyways, what was I even saying? Thank you so much, everybody. I made a pact to myself and go, I don't like this aspect, right? To know that this couple believes in that. That's actually really horrific. Yes, it is horrific to not believe in reproductive rights for women. And especially when you profit off of young girls and women. Ponder it, guys. Ponder it, guys. And then I go, and we got another one supporting a genocide. Let's just fucking talk about it for a second. At the end of the day, we have men disconnected from their own humanity. Think about it. Disconnected from your own humanity, you cannot spot the harm in what you believe. Are those people I want to give my money to? Absolutely not. And for anyone watching online, it's a new day. It's a new dawn. It's a new day. Because I got interrupted, and here we are resuming the patriarchy in boy bands and fangirl rant. But like I said, we evaluate things that have happened and we go, oh yeah, I don't like that. Literally at all. I'm not cool with that. I'm not cool with that. I think I was talking about BTR before and just saying like, hey, I was not cool with what Carlos and his wife beliefs were at all, but you were just like kind of weighing like it's 1 out of 4 of them. Do I still, you know what I mean? It's like I actually genuinely do not like this at all. And I use them because they're a great example. I was 14 when they started. They were my emotional support boy band. And obviously, still have an attachment to a degree. I have not listened to anything since the end of fall of 2023. So it's been some time now. Obviously, when you function with that brain, the references still come to your mind. I still know all the song lyrics. I still know all of my knowledge. So it's just kind of annoying. I need that Men in Black mind eraser to my brain, quite honestly. But I say this is a phenomenal example, and I'd like to share with others because people sharing their experiences has done truly so much for me. Um, but just kind of how coming to this mindset. So, when the band came back, I said, okay, when I see XYZ, I'm out. And I think also to know, I blocked them at one point, Carlos and his wife, because it's just like, I don't need to see that shit. You know what I mean? You know, when you get to a point where you're like looking because you're just like, that's insane that you're posting that. And then you just go, hey, the lesson is don't look. The lesson is don't look. Because you already have collected all this information. You already know what's going on. Like, there is no magical information, no new tweet, retweet from this woman that you're going to see that's going to change the reality. It's only giving you more information to be upset. And at the end of the day, you got to look away. And look away in the fact that we don't interact and now we need to decide what we're doing now. I don't know if anyone else was in the big time rush meet and greet line reading that Roe v. Wade was overturned, but I'll tell you what, it wasn't helping me forget that fact, right? Because as we said, even if he is not someone who is posting about that on his page, it's just like that's who you're with, by the way. So that is a reflection of you, whether you like it or not. But like I said, it's just one of those things that gives you like an overall reflection of life. And I like to say, like, even if you go, this, I'm gonna pretend like this is a 2012 version, right? At the end of the day, that's ultimately unhelpful. I had the time of my life at the 2023 tour, and I'm so grateful for that. But then it went to the shit show. As I did briefly say, in the previous clip. It was not on my bingo card that James was gonna uh be doing all that. How could it possibly be? But yeah, I just to see men be so disconnected from their own humanity is really terrible, to be quite honest. I understand what people are saying about the other guys. I just go, if you have a friend and business partner that you're working with that believes those things, even if you have different beliefs, like it's not a flex to say, we can work together despite our very different moral fundamental beliefs on these things, right? Like, I don't think that's a flex, to be quite honest, right? Especially when you have ownership over your own business, right? It's different if you like work at a job under a big corporation and you have like a coworker, right? Like, you're keeping to your work and you're keeping to yourselves. Like, y'all are a band for young girls and women. And this is like what you're co-signing by being friends and working with them with, right? And I just have to say, bands have broken up for less. Let's be real. People have broken up for less. People have broken up for less. So I'm just saying, I wonder to the people, how can you uh, disconnect that to have fun still? I don't understand that, which is why I'm making this video, just to kind of talk about a little bit of my process on all of that. Like I said, I do understand to a degree because obviously I was like, yeah, I can't follow him, but we'll just pretend this is the 2012 version just to have good old, old fun, from the glory days from when I was a teen. But yeah, I don't know. I don't understand how people can separate that, but that's just a me thing. But I really do think, in the overall, reflecting on all of this, it has really helped me, uh, really just figure out where I stand and what I want to do with that. And that's all we can do at the end of the day. I think, especially with the direction this country is going in, uh, spooked to say the fucking least, we really need to all be giving that a good old think at the end of the day. How does patriarchy affect our relationships, especially with people that we are a fan of? We have this kind of idea that we can assume the best out of people. And I'm not saying that you need to be skeptical of every person that you interact with, every person that you're a fan of. It's just something to a radical acceptance of, let's not be surprised when someone does something like that. Because think about how many other people who would look at that and go, yeah, likely thing to happen. Look at that. Hello? Hello? Is anyone surprised? You know what I mean? But sometimes we really, our brains try to, I don't know, really try to lie to us in that way. And I just think it's so interesting. And I say that particularly because I think this is like one of the biggest examples I can think of. Like I said, I like to share. Um, and I would love to hear if anyone else has anything to say, in similar vein to that. But I just think, you know, I unfollowed all of the members, obviously. Half of them are blocked, the other two are unfollowed. Just by the mere fact of like, I felt that would be best. I felt that would be best. Okay. We're having our own big time breakup in a way. But sorry, any kind of guy just came into my head. I literally, the way I could recite literally anything for you right now, BTR, and I still would be able to because that information just doesn't erase from your brain, despite all of that. But I really want people to evaluate the men that you are a fan of, right? I feel like this is like, I don't want to say easier, but in my head, it's, you don't like really know these people, like they're not in your lives in that way. So hopefully it would be a little bit easier as comparison to someone in your individual life. But do you want to give your money and time to men who would not stand for fundamental human rights that you as a woman and you as a human being, that we, if we are on this earth, we deserve? Right? So it's just kind of like, hey, ponder it. Ponder it. We're all fangirls. We have all done this. We have all been dismissive. We have all told our brain, hey, shush, 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 shush. And at some point, we need to lock the fuck in and get real with it. Big time. One thing I've always said, maybe I've already said it, I don't even remember, is that we need to be resensitizing ourselves. Because especially with everything that's going on, guys, you need to lock the fuck in, read a book or two, okay? Get a library card. Okay, follow creators that have the same values. Follow creators that who are educating you and posing just philosophical questions at the end of the day, because we need to challenge ourselves to do better, right? That's all we can do. Challenge ourselves to do better. And see where our values align, and see where we could be doing better in that arena. Because the patriarchy has its grip on so many fucking people, okay? And we need it to have less of a grip, okay? The grip needs to be dying. We need to have some discernment. We need to have some realizations. Is everyone listening? Okay, because I really do think, especially getting into this stuff at a young age, like I've said, watching it happen in our lives, watching it online, and especially now is because we have social media has gone crazy since I was a teenager. Okay, mind you, mind you, it's crazy to think about, but I really think, especially as we're getting older, because like teens, like I said, it's almost like a rite of passage for you to kind of learn this lesson, right? But I just see people who are older, right? Who were also around my age range, back in the day. And I go, we can't still be going over these same things at our big age, guys. We have to lock the fuck in. We have to, guys, deconstruct patriarchy within your fangirl mind. It's so incredibly important. There is always more to learn. There's always more to be curious about. And I think that's something we need to be more open to. And if you don't feel open to it, what are some skills? What are some things we can work on to get to that point? Because I think that's something that's so important. And the reason I, earlier have spoken about, I was curious about how that translates to romantic relationships for people who I say operate under this very I'll say extreme fangirl mind, is because look at all the conversations on TikTok now, right? Amazing that there is a platform for women to share all of their stories, and especially older women too, right? There's a reason why older ladies go, nope, live for yourself. Don't rely on a man. You know what I mean? There are reasons for that, okay? And I think that translates to so many different ways of life, right? And I think the fangirl life is one of them. How can we engage in that culture in a different way, that we're not grasping onto the balls of the patriarchy? Because, as one of my favorite TV characters would say, ovary up. Ladies and thems and gents, ovary up. Okay? Ovary up. Margot from The Magicians. Y'all need to watch that. Y'all need to watch that. Okay? You want a strong woman who's not going to put up with a man's shit? Margot. Margot from The Magicians, okay? That is my queen right there. That's queen shit right there. King shit, if you know The Magicians like I do. But yeah, I just wanted to come on and chat about that because the patriarchy and its grip on the fangirl culture is so interesting. And I think there's so much more that could be touched on. This was not um, really scripted out in any way. Just little jots in the notes section as anyone else is doing. But I just wanted to get in and kind of just like rant about this because we need to really ponder it, guys. Been pondering it for a long time, even before I had the words for it, right? And I think it's also so incredible. Like, we need to keep going on. But here we are. Thanks for listening if you're still here. That, I would say I have had more words for everything I'm looking for since TikTok, which, like I said, social media, good and bad, we can't even get into that today. But just the people spreading the information, being a jumping off point for me has been so incredible because one thing I've always said, and I like this through the fangirl lens of, if you feel like you cannot do it with your real person, right? Whether that be someone in your life, whether that be a man you are a fan of currently, right? If you feel like that's too hard for you to address right now, rewatch a TV show. Rewatch a TV show from the early 2000s. I mean, I honestly, any TV show, let's be honest, because things have to happen because it's a TV show. If every man was healthy in a TV show, where would we be? What would we be possibly watching? But the early 2000s men are really on something that I just don't want anything of. Like, I don't even know what was going on there. I say this regarding How I Met Your Mother and Ted Mosby. Like, Barney Stinson, if you watch How I Met Your Mother, Barney Stinson, you know why. You know why he's the problem. Ted Mosby, like, you go, something doesn't sit right with me about that man. All right. And now I got the language for it in a way that y'all should be scared of. Now, Marshall Erickson, I haven't watched How I Met Your Mother since 2019. I think Marshall Erickson is close enough to the best guy on How I Met Your Mother, but I don't even want to say that because I don't really remember the logistics. Although I've seen it many times, I have not seen it since 2019. So the details escape me, but I think he was, if I had to pick one in the mix, Marshall for sure. But I think that's a great way to really start doing it. I really do challenge everyone to see what that looks like because it's such necessary work to do at the end of the day. So, what have we learned here today? There is a lot of deconstructing patriarchy to do in the fangirl mind, in the fangirl culture. Okay, we need to be questioning what that looks like for us and how we could be doing better. Get that fucking library card. Open up a book. Start doing some learning. Start doing some deconstructing patriarchy. Okay, you can do it. I really believe in all of you. I think we've all done it, whether we've had the language for it or not. We've all been constantly doing it in a way. Obviously, when you have the language and you know what that specifically looks like, it can be accelerated a bit more. And at the end of the day, it's the forever work because we live in a patriarchal society, right? So it's going to be, well, we're always going to be clocking something that we haven't figured out at the end of the day. And that's something also important to know. But we need to be resensitizing ourselves, right? And why are we giving men our money who wouldn't stand for our human rights, our reproductive rights, guys, or just human rights in general? Uh, hello? Hello? Can we say that's bare minimum? Bare minimum? Right? Like, why are we praising these men? I'm just asking. Why are we praising these men? Okay? Why are we praising these men? Because let me tell you this. I'm gonna wrap this up. Me keeps talking. Tom Welling. Sexy man. Sexy man. He was on the CW on Smallville. So he has a very recognizable face, even if you don't know his name. Tom Welling. Should I say it one more time? Tom Welling. Um, I followed him on Instagram. I saw him chuck a hay bale. Phenomenal arms. I watched him in Lucifer and I said, yes, I feel alive again. I feel alive again. But here's the thing. I saw he got a DUI and was arrested in an Arby's parking lot. And you just go, and this is why. And this is why. He's sexy, but like, come on. A DUI, period. Number two, in an Arby's parking lot? That's like two terrible offenses. One worse than the other, of course. But I just said, come on, guys, lock in, lock in. We need to change the way we're thinking about these things. I really do think we need to. So I hope this has been interesting for anyone who has wanted to listen. But yeah, I think we all got a lot of work to do at the end of the day. And hey, we're all in this together. Sorry, I needed to throw in a last High School Musical reference because I've been on my High School Musical shit recently.